Welcome to the Unnecessary Statness podcast, brought to you by the team from Useless AFL Stats Facebook page, bringing you the AFL's weird, bizarre, and totally irrelevant stats you never asked for and never knew you needed. With Liam Crowy Crowhurst, Bill the Bulldog Skelton, and Aaron Delaporte.
It's been a huge week. Round 17 seemed to go on forever.
Yeah, it was a long round, Della, but not the longest ever. There was some fairly long rounds back during sort of just before World War II that took almost 3 weeks to complete. And if you want to look at the modern era, 2013, 2014, the opening rounds were split across multiple weeks. So they took, 10 and 11 days to finish. So this one was a long round, but not historically long.
Of course, last year in COVID, we had the footy frenzy where we just had game after game or day after day. It felt like a footy frenzy.
Yeah, we had a couple of Wednesday night games, which are pretty rare. So I'm surprised that didn't come up in the results there. But it's always good to have footy on every single night.
Yeah, for sure. I actually went and had a look at West Coast's Monday record, thinking they may have played some Monday games last year, but they hadn't. They have, however, played six Monday games, and they've lost their last 5. Apart from the white Guernseys, which they seem to have a phobia of, they may also have a Monday phobia as well. We know they've already got a Cardinia Park phobia as well. So I wanted to start on the many milestones this round. I think we had 11. We had 3 captains with milestones. We had Max Gawn with his 150th. We also had Nat Fyfe with his 200th and Dane Zorko with his 200th. I was hoping all the captains were gonna have wins, but Brisbane sort of let Dane Zorko down a bit. He had a good game, but the rest of them didn't, and of course didn't help that they had some injuries in that one either. So, but 11, we had the 50, the 100, the 150, and the 200 with the first game of the round. 3 Melbourne players and Stephen Motlop with his 200th. That was pretty rare. Bill, you were right across that one. I think it was the 6th time.
Yeah, it was the 6th time that there's been a 50th, 100th, 150th, and 200 in the one game. And there's been a couple of times where there's been 4 unique milestones in a game that wasn't that composition. So the 50, 100, 200, 250, something like that. So something happened 9 times ever. So yeah, pretty rare territory.
I did also want to mention quickly the Gold Coast having their first ever 1-point win. Now, Gold Coast have played a couple of 100 games, and I was meant to look up and see if that was the longest for any team, but maybe I'll throw that over to one of you two guys to try and work out. I sort of look at 1-point wins in AFL as doing the least possible effort to get a victory. I can definitely
just to jump in. Yeah, we got a question from Norman Jupp the third. Most different jumpers worn by a player. Burgoyne would have to be up there. So what we can go on here is more about jersey numbers. So we obviously know that there have been a couple of players that have played for 4 different clubs. So Tom Hickey, I believe, is the most recent to play for 4 different clubs. But we have Jack Reagan, who's played in 11 different jumper numbers.
I reckon he probably played for Collingwood, because Collingwood, when they first started, and I can see some names there like Fonzie Kine and Gordon Coventry, they were definitely Collingwood guys. They used to give out the jumpers based on alphabetical order. If your name was first alphabetically, you got number 1. And it went on like that to the rest of the team. So that's probably why he ended up with 11 different jumpers there.
You're talking about 1-point margins. Throughout the week, we got a question about which player has played in the most consecutive games determined by 1 point. And it has been done 3 times in a row by 2 separate players.
Oh, wow.
I didn't write down who it was, but that's the record.
Okay. I don't think anyone's on a streak at the moment, so I don't think it's any current players. Maybe Gold Coast can get a 2-point win this week, start something. It'd be pretty amazing. I'm surprised it's only 2, because you'd think if it happened, potentially they could all be in the same team, like, 10 or 12 players. But maybe they played a game, missed a few, or got suspended and came back. And
yeah, they weren't in sequences. Like you sort of had to play one, miss a few, play and get lucky. We also just got a question in the Facebook about the number of or who has gotten 30 touches, 10 clearances and 2 goals in a game. I'm not sure if you saw that question come through. A few players have done it. The player who has done it the most is Gary Ablett Jr. With 9 games. And then Patrick Dangerfield and Josh Kennedy have done it 6 times. 57 players have done it all up. Unfortunately for me, eight of those 9 games were when it was at the Gold Coast.
Well, I've got one that you can't really look up through any database. But Brandon Ellis for Gold Coast had 41 disposals. He didn't have any of them inside the 50-metre arc. But I did remember Jakey Lloyd. He had a game against Freo where he had 41 disposals, and I remember it well because Freo got slaughtered and I was watching it in a pub in Subiaco. He had 28 of them in defensive 50, 13 of them in the middle of the ground, so between the 2 arcs, obviously none of them in the inside 50, but he actually only had 3 of his 41 possessions forward of the centre line. And of those 3, he actually kicked the goal from about 55 metres out. So Brandon Ellis is not the first player to have 41 disposals and none of them inside forward 50.
So a goal from outside 50 doesn't count as a inside 50, does it?
It's not a possession inside the 50.
It's not a possession inside 50.
Yeah, it would count as an inside 50, but you would not get it on your heat map. It would present as outside 50.
As outside of 50. I gotcha.
Anyway, his heat map was just dots everywhere inside the defensive 50. It was amazing. He had 91.5% D50 possessions and 8% somehow forward 50.
We have had a question of the most bounces in a game. That record goes to Nathan Bock. He had 20 bounces in a 2009 round 5 game. Truly, truly extraordinary. And you can see also in the top 3, Jason Graham, Heath Shaw, and Boomer Harvey, Rhys Shaw, Chris Yaron, Leo Barry, Montagna, all very high bounces. So thanks to Adam Matthews for sending in that question.
I know there's a few people getting around the Brownlow medal. We're getting close to the end of the season, so it's a very prestigious award. I'm actually keen to maybe send something out to the Club of the Winner and see if the Brownlow is well received by whoever does get the win. But this week, either of you guys want to have a guess who I gave the 5 to?
Oh, geez, I would have gone Zach Tui, but I'm not sure where you've gone, Della.
Yes, you were right, Zach Tui. So he got it mainly for his double moustache tweak. That sealed the top votes for him. However, he did kick 2 goals. So he's incorporated a moustache tweak into his preset shot routine. He had 24 disposals at 87% efficiency and 8 marks. He called his moustache colour after the game Moroccan Sunset, but it's not an official colour Moroccan Sunset. He is actually officially Spicy Mix. I colour picked his moustache. So his moustache is actually Spicy Mix. It's a shade of brown. So there you go. The 4 votes gave it to teammate Tom Stewart. He was right behind Tui with another great game, 25 disposals, 619 metres gained, 10 intercepts, 12 marks. So he is closed in. We'll get to the leaderboard shortly. We've got 3 votes to Bailey Smith. He had a good game despite being in a losing side. He was probably one of the Dogs' best midfielders. They were a bit quiet. The McRae lost his sequence of 30 disposals. He had 27 disposals, 6 marks, 3 tackles, 1 goal, and a goal assist. Good game by the man with 1 million Instagram followers. 2 votes to Jake Lloyd, despite BT saying he picks up lots of cheapies on the kickouts. Lloyd was a real general down back for Sydney and instrumental in helping them upset the Cats. He had 9 marks and 33 disposals. Not anywhere near his best, but a good game. And I gave the 1 vote. I was tossing up between 2 players here. I could have gone either way, but I gave it to Cozzy Pickett. Could have easily given it to Cam Zurha, but Pickett was a real live wire. His stats aren't up there with his Mo rivals, but he had a huge impact. 9 disposals, 9 tackles, 3 goals, and of course that one where the advertising banner tracked the ball into goal was quite amazing. So 1 to him. And the honourable mentions, Scott Lysett, Isaac Smith, Daniel McKenzie, Ben Long and Bailey Dale. So whipping through the leaderboard, Tom Liberatore's on 27, Tom Stewart's on 26, Taylor Walker 23, Jake Lever and Bailey Dale all on 21.
I know you use the quality of the mustache as like a tiebreaker when you can't split games, and I think Zach Tui's mustache is probably up there now with the best in the league. So I campaign for him every week to get votes, and his mustache is getting better every week. So I think he'll come home strong if I get my way.
I think he's up to 14. We've got 6 games left. So in theory, if someone had 6 best on grounds for the Brownlow, they could pick up 30 votes. So in theory, someone that has never polled a vote could still win it.
Very disappointing to see that Lockie Jones has gone out with, I believe, a long-term injury, Port Adelaide youngster. So that's truly disappointing. We won't be able to see him on the leaderboard.
He could have been a rising Brownlow medal.
A rising Brownlow.
Sort of look like you're trying to win it yourself there, Liam, actually. You've been brewing that over the last few weeks.
Yeah. I reckon if I get rid of the rest of the beard, I mean, I'm going for a pretty like a homeless statistician look. But if I get rid of the beard, it's just going to look absolutely filthy. So I might bring it out for the final round when we get all dressed up. Of course, the day before, maybe the night before Brownlow, we do the Brownlow Awards.
Maybe I'll grow one too.
Maybe you'll grow one. Oh God. Yeah. Maybe not.
When we go into lockdown, I refuse to shave. So I've had a few good beards going in the last 18 months, but then unfortunately you got to go back to work.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
I posted up all the Brownlow contenders on Facebook and various shades of brown. These are accurately colour picked off their mustaches through Photoshop, and then I used a colour matching applicator to get all the shades. So if anyone was playing along, the lightest of the colours was Santa Fe. That was, of course, Tom Stewart's mustache.
Of course.
A lot of people got that, I believe, on Facebook. The second lightest, which was dark tan, was Bailey Dale's. Again, that was probably an easier one to get, although some people picked Zach Tui with that one. Number 3, of course, was Spicy Mix and not Moroccan Sunset, as Zach Tui calls his mustache. It's definitely Spicy Mix. Number 4 was the Mocha Chino. That is Jake Lever. Number 5, which is the Cioccolatto, that is Tom Liberatore, one of my favourite Brownlow players. Although I don't have any bias when I come to pick the winners each week. And the brownest is the Brown Pod. That is Taylor Walker. That is, if you look at their hair colours, you should be able to get that one. But I don't know if anyone playing along on Facebook got all 6 of those. We'll have to check that out tomorrow, but there you go.
I've got a stat here for you, Aaron.
Cool.
So we had one come in through the comments. Commander James Bagama, how many times has Richmond lost after being up 20 plus at 3/4 time? Sorry, I'll switch these numbers around. So
you stuffed it up.
You idiot.
So we want to see how many times they've been up at 3/4 time by 20 points, so greater than the 20-point margin, and we're going to compare that to the final score.
Yeah, so they were up against Collingwood by, 29 at one point.
Yeah,
and they got rolled.
Yeah, they were absolutely barnstorming.
That was one of my 6 losing tips across the weekend.
Yeah, terrible day for tippers at the moment. So we're going to take a look. So Richmond, it's been a couple of times where they've been up 20 games now. So 21 if you include the most recent game. So one of their worst losses.
They got beat by 21.
One of their worst losses. So the third quarter margin, they were up by 23 in 1946 round 4, and then ended up losing by 21. So it's the 21st time the Richmond have led by 20 putts. 21 putts.
Looks like there was a final in there that you scrolled past, actually.
Yes, 1933 semi-final. Very
tragic loss. I remember it.
Who was that against? Fitzroy.
Yeah.
There's no more useless stat than stats involving Fitzroy.
We love them, don't we?
It's good when a Fitzroy one comes up.
Or University Blues come up in the history. I always love that too.
Yeah, they don't come up in winning games. So.
The semi-final loss was against Sydney, but of course back then it was South Melbourne. So it's great to see. And we can also look at the all-time record. What's the largest loss after being 20 points up. Goes to North Melbourne versus Essendon in 1941. North Melbourne up by 28 points, ended up losing by 37. So that's quite the turnaround. That's almost like a 10-goal turnaround. Truly North Melbourne-esque, quintessential North Melbourne.
I'm interested in one that came through on in our inbox on Facebook. Some astute person picked it up. I'll get his name. It was Tom
Berry. Yeah, I've got that one for you. Do you want me to run through that?
Yeah.
So Tom Berry asked, as David subs on for Dare, they both have identical stat lines. Is this a first? That's being 5 kicks, 2 handles, 4 marks, and 1 tackle. That's never happened before.
Wow. So do it across teams.
So you're looking for a player who was subbed out of one team and a player who was subbed into the other team that had identical stat lines. Oh.
Yeah. To sort it by kicks.
So we have Xavier Ellis for Hawthorn subbed out, and Sam Doherty also subbed out, and they both have the same stat line. So that's the kind of areas we're getting into here.
That's one subbed out, both subbed out.
6. So
that Adelaide one on the weekend was one player subbed out, and then the subbed in player then went and matched them.
Yeah.
That appears to be the first time ever, right?
Yes, that does.
We're going to put that up on Facebook tomorrow.
Tom Rockcliffe got subbed out, and Jared Gartlett also got subbed out for Brisbane and Gold Coast, respectively, both having a stat line of all zeros.
Is there any sub-outs and sub-ins there?
Matt Tabernar, Fremantle, subbed out. Jake Lloyd, Sydney, subbed in, and they both got the exact same scoreline. Stat line.
Jake Lloyd was subbed in. How long ago was that?
That was 2014, round 5. One more real quick one. Jackson Lowe was wondering if you guys know when the most wins team has had and still finished with the wooden spoon. North a chance to beat it this year.
Oh, yes.
I did have a look. And
it's like 4 or 5 wins.
It goes to Collingwood, 24 points, 6 wins in 1976.
Well, the funny thing is, if North get to 6 wins, they probably won't win the wooden spoon. They could leapfrog Hawthorn, Collingwood, or Adelaide.
Yeah. So the 1976 season that we're referencing here, the team on top was Carlton, 16 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses, and still ended up in first place. So what we're looking for is a more compressed ladder. So Collingwood ending up on the bottom of the ladder with a percentage of 86, 6 wins, 16 losses.
So with all the work the AFL has done towards equalisation, we're sort of seeing that it was potentially more equal in 1976 than now.
There was also less teams, but...
Yeah, also less teams. That also helps.
Well, they should get rid of some teams. I've been saying it for years. All of the non-Victorian teams should be booted out.
Yeah, the Victorian teams should form their own super league of sorts and call it the VFL, where they can play against all each other. Yeah.
It's a good name for it.
We've got a question on Facebook from Peter McKenna. Wonder if he's the ex-champion Peter McKenna. Probably a different Peter McKenna, I'd guess. What is the most long sleeve jumpers worn in a single match? We've been asked this one a few times, and that was game down at Cardinia Park where it was just about hailing, and Fremantle played them and got absolutely belted. And every single Fremantle player ran out onto the ground in a long sleeve jumper in the second half. Well, if it wasn't a jumper, it was the old shirt, long sleeve shirt under a jumper. I think some of them had long sleeve jumpers and long sleeve shirts on. But even Pav, Sandilands, they all had the long sleeve on, and about half of Geelong's team also had long sleeves on. All the traditional long sleeve wearers like Jimmy Bartell definitely had it on. And I think there's definitely a YouTube video of that game.
Just had a stat come in about the most bounces ever in a season. This is from Kieran Thomas. Pretty easy one to look up. They've told us accurately that Heath Shaw and Reece Shaw are number 1 and 2 in 2009 with 167 and 160 bounces. But what they've highlighted is that they're both very much well clear of third place, and they're both far above their previous best seasons. And they've put forward a theory that the Shaw brothers perhaps made a bet before the season as to who could get the most bounces in 2009. I think that's a pretty good theory. Reece Shaw played an extra game, but Heath Shaw had 7 extra bounces, and they're 40 plus clear of third place.
The way some people grab the ball and take 2 steps and bounce it, you think they're in the heart of the bet.
Patrick Mega here is for how many players since 1990 have had no bounces in their entire career. So,
I've got a good stat right off the top of my head when you finish this.
Okay. The interesting one about this one, I didn't put in season here. So season greater than 1990, type it in. So we're going to sum all the bounces over each person. So we get the ID, the first name and the surname of each individual player, because sometimes you have like Josh, first name, surname Kennedy, and when you're doing database manipulations, it can be quite confusing. You don't want to merge the 2 Josh Kennedys together. So we have an ID number here. And we can also sum across each of those groups. So we're summing the bounces, and we're also just going to sum the disposals to have a bit of fun. Yeah. So Max Gawn, Tom Hickey, Hugh Greenwood, Barry Hall, Nankervis round out the top 5. So Max Gawn, 2,181 disposals without a bounce.
I'd be very disappointed if he registers one now. I do like to keep an eye out on Tom Hawkins bouncing. I think he's only got 8 or 9 career bounces. He's never had 2 in a game. So on the rare occasion he gets one early, I start watching very closely in case he has a career high 2 bounces. I think we all have a player like that we love to watch bounce the ball. Yeah, I think Hawkins is up to 8 bounces. Hasn't had one this year.
Another good twist on this stat is just looking at players that have had 1 bounce, and that goes to Shane Mumford. 211 games with 1 bounce.
Oh, wow.
Not only did he get a taste for the bounce, and he successfully completed the bounce, he said, 1's enough. That's enough for me. I'm done here.
It was over 10 years ago. It was in 2009.
Oh, brilliant.
Round 7 against the Cats, Geelong by 51 points. Shane Mumford with the solitary 1 bounce. Whilst playing for Geelong, of course. Yeah, not many people remember those days. I still consider him a Geelong legend. We had a question come through from Jacob Landy about what the ratio of kicks to handballs is over time. So, yeah, we can go back to 1965, as you just mentioned, Liam. In 65, 85% of all disposals were kicks, and that's pretty steady throughout the 60s. It starts to sort of trend down in the mid-1970s to about 65% by the 90s. It's been as low as 55%. It's now 60%. So, for every 100 disposals back in the day, 85 would be kicks, and you'd see the rare handball, but now it's more like 60-40.
I tell you what, if you can get vision of the 1960s or the very early 1970s, and you can see players handballing, they actually did like a windmill wind-up when they handballed. It's quite amazing to see how their techniques, not the little throws they do these days that count as handballs for sure.
I've never seen really footage of it, but I've heard from my dad that Polly Farmer used to be able to handball at about 150 metres. That's just anecdotal from my old man, but I understand he could handball it essentially the whole ground.
He used to practice handballing through moving cars through their windows. That's the old.
I assume as they came out of the open Ford factory back in the day when Geelong was a lively town, he's just nailing the fresh cars with handballs from kilometres away.
Actually, that's a good use of stat, the Geelong Ford connection. So they've been a major sponsor of Geelong ever since they've existed. It's the longest sporting sponsorship in the world. So it's still going today, which is amazing. Always had the Ford.
Good synergy with the colours.
So we had a question from Ben Pollock. How many players have won games by a margin that equals their jumper number? So,
yes.
1971, round 20, Ian Craig, jumper number 54, has had a 54-point win in that jumper number, playing for Richmond. Actually, the top 3 are from Richmond. John Caulfield and Colin Waterson with 53 and 53 respectively. So they're top.
Sean Wren's had 252s. Can we get a sum? And Ben Brown's had a 50 there. the most games with the same margin as their jumper?
The most, Wayne Schimmelbusch has 9 wins and Jordan Lewis has 9 wins with their jumper number equal to the margin. So
There you go. Stephen Silvani, 8. He was number 1. Oh, Nat Fife's had 7 wins by 7 wearing number 7. I like that.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I'll be happy if they win by 7 this week.
Who are they playing this week?
They're playing Geelong
Oh.
Thursday.
One of those wins might have been when he wore number 13 in his first season.
True.
Yes, actually, I can just check for that now. So like I said, his other 7-point win actually came in another 13.
Yeah, so he's had 6 7-point wins. He needs to have another one to get that up to 7.
Maybe that can happen this weekend. We'll keep an eye out on it.
I'll be a barracking for it for sure.
I've nearly got that longest streak without a 4-game loss in a row. Bear with me, I'll have it in about a minute or so.
I remember you mentioning to me, Phil, that you were going on a weight loss program and your incentive to lose weight was based on Geelong's list of players and what they weigh.
Yeah, so we sort of call it in the family, you want to hit the Mitch Duncan standard. So Mitch Duncan's player height and weight from memory is 187 and 88 kilos. So instead of having a scale that tells me how many kilos I am, I instead just sort of look at the Geelong list and see where I'm at. So yeah, trying to work down from a Hawkins into the Gary Rowan, down into the Mitch Duncan territory now. So I think scales should sort of come that way as well.
You're doing better than me because I'm above Tom Hawkins. I'm more at a Charlie Dixon. I'll be hoping to get to a Shane Mumford and then go through to an Aaliyah and Nat Fife, Jack Darling, Michael Hurley, Bontempelli, Cripps, Steele, Pendlebury. I've got these in a big long list. Ben Keys, Rampy, Luke Parker, Guthrie. That's getting down to like the mid-80s. Bailey Smith, if you really want to look nice and trim, taut and terrific, he's down on the 80.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to get semi-anorexic, you can get down to a Liam Henry or one of those type players, a Caleb Daniel even.
I've got a stat for you, Aaron. Chris Short, who just commented on our page, Jack Graham, the only player to win when his team scores his jumper number. I assume there's meant to be a question mark at the end here.
35, is he? 35?
He's 34. 34. So
34. Oh, it's so close.
So Jack Graham had 34 versus Sydney's 26.
I've got that record, the longest streak without losing 4 games in a row. Collingwood holds it. Second time it's come up tonight, which is a bit unusual, but World War II really helped them out. So the record is 347 games they went without losing 4 in a row, and it was 6,545 days, which is 7. Well, I said World War II helped them out, but it was an 18-year streak, so I've actually been a bit short on them there.
So Geelong have got that within reach. No,
Geelong was close, yeah.
3 years to go.
But it's hard once you reset because you're always nearly 2 decades away.
Yeah.
So Adelaide and Collingwood, 6,500 days. That's going to be tough to beat. They were a good side through the 30s and 40s, Collingwood. Carlton has a similar streak, 5,500 days through a similar period. If you want one that's half recent, they are hard to find, but Hawthorn has a streak as well, 5,400 days that ended in the mid-1990s. In a loss to St Kilda broke that streak.
Oh, well. Of course, Richmond going back to back are now sitting 12th. They're and we're going to be keeping a real close eye on this one. They're within one ladder position of equaling Adelaide's record for back-to-back premiers nosediving down the ladder.
They are within touching distance of being the worst ever performing team after going back-to-back. I think they'll break the record too. They look pretty bad at the moment.
Yeah, well, Brisbane hopefully will knock them off, and then after that,
Carlton looks good. They're coming behind. Gold Coast has had a good win, so the teams behind them are coming. So if they drop one position, they tie the record, and if they drop 2 or more, they'll take the record.
Yeah, the worry for me is they might start getting actually some good players back, but we'll see what happens for the rest of the year. Another thing I've noticed is Charlie Curnow is actually returning to the VFL. Apparently, he's going to play half a game or something for their VFL team. I don't think it's called Carlton, the VFL side. The name escapes me. But for players that have played a minimum of 50 games, he's actually got the worst winning percentage of any current player. I think it's about 17%. And I think when he finished his last game, he may have had the record, but a number of Gold Coast players were right there with him, and players like Braden Fiorini and even Tuke Miller and those sort of guys had really bad winning percentages, but they've picked up the pace in the last few weeks. So Charlie, when he gets back for Carlton, will need to get a few wins to get away from that.
The Carlton VFL team is coached by Dan O'Keefe, who was Sam Walsh's coach in the Geelong Falcons.
Oh, yes.
So clearly he can develop young players if he helps develop Sam Walsh.
Very good. I can see Liam's working on a stat from Andy Munro about who has bounced the least under 183 centimetres. Interesting.
Yeah, so thanks to Freizig, who you can all follow on Twitter. He's compiled the more advanced stats for us, which also includes player height. I'm not sure how he got the player height data. Maybe he scraped it from AFL tables, or maybe he just hacked into Champion Data's database.
I think
you can just know all of them if you become obsessed with player heights and weights. You just can know them all off the top of your head.
Yeah,
I believe there's a few other websites that have them. FootyWire might have them, and Zero Hanger might have them as well.
I believe AFL Tables does, but it's
they
stuck,
do, but not in
it's stuck up the top, where you can't readily access it. And I'm not sure if players' heights would change over time. And we also have access to player weights as well. So I'm assuming the weights would change over time, but I'm not sure at what point in time the stats have been collated for. So we just have to kind of go on with it, and we'll see.
While you're working on that, I noticed, I don't know if you guys watch The Bounce, which comes on Sunday Arvos, normally after the last game on a Sunday. But Cam Mooney's numerology, our Jake Kelly stat about being player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in game 67, having wearing jumper 8 and having 9 kicks. That got a run on The Bounce, but someone tweeted it out after we posted it.
Yeah, pretty much word for word. Yeah.
he gave them credit, which is fine. We like our stats getting shared.
Stats are for everyone.
We might finish off with this one, Liam. I know.
Yeah.
So we've summed all the bounces, and then we can have a look at how many you've got. 0.
Has this come in as a question from somebody?
Yes.
Yes, Andy.
I'm very curious as to why they've selected 183 centimeters as
a very specific height, isn't it?
Their cutoff.
It's like the 6 foot mark, isn't it? 183, or is that
it's
181?
A bit shy.
Lockie
Schultz. Can we get a quick check on that, please?
He's too busy kicking snags for Freo.
If someone can please confirm that for me, that'd be great.
Confirm his height.
Oh yeah. Games played, all that stuff.
He's definitely not 183. He's 178, and he's never had a bounce. It's confirmed.
Well, there we go. Mitch Crowden,
he's played
Snelling, Mansworth.
He's played 39 games now too.
It seems.
Oh, Mitch Crowden. Dockers are dominating.
Yeah.
Here.
They're allergic to bounces over West. Maybe. It seems that when a player under 183 centimeters doesn't take a bounce, their career doesn't last longer than 38 games. So
I'm surprised Brad Close is on that list.
Yes, very
I'm
close.
very surprised by that.
He better get a bounce in somewhere because it's really not looking good.
I'll have to have a word to him.
Yeah,
He's a long sleeve wearing, mustache toting.
non-bouncer.
Yeah, it's a rare combination for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's been done. This is from memory. I think he's been done for running too far without a bounce. I have a memory of that down the broadcast wing. So maybe he just doesn't know how to.
Mhm.
Sam Flanders.
Notice these are all current players.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the database doesn't have heights for players going back too far, unfortunately.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That would make sense as to why that's the case. Oh, there's a few there that would definitely get some bounces under the belt at some point, I'm sure. All right, guys, we might wrap that up. Thanks to those who tuned in via Facebook. There's quite a few, which was great. Thanks for all the questions. We definitely missed quite a few there. We may go back through those and check them out later. Thanks, Liam, for giving everyone a sneak peek at the way we work most of these stats out.
Mm-hmm.
And cheers, Bill. I love your background with the Gary Ablett stats behind you.
Yeah, 53 disposals right there.
It's awesome.
I think it's over the other shoulder.
Is it?
This is low 40s
Oh,
over
okay.
here. This is top 10 disposals. Just sort of at my mustache line.
And he's 5 or 6 goals he kicks. All right. So we'll wrap that up and we'll be back again next week.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Unnecessary Statness, the Useless AFL Stats podcast. Subscribe or follow on Facebook for more useless stat-related content.